Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to our review of Prometheus. That's right, in anticipation for Alien Covenant coming out next week, we checked out Prometheus once again. And by we, I mean Connor.
Hello.
And Benny.
Hello.
Guys, we have known each other a long time, including when Prometheus first came out. And we've had, over the years, many debates about the film, and I think this is the definitive final battle for us.
I don't know if I have any more Prometheus talk left in me after all these years.
Realistically, I mean, we've all known each other probably about 8 years. We all started at the same cinema together. That's how we know each other. And I don't remember an argument being this long-lasting and just kind of prevalent between people. So I remember when we first saw it, we all saw it together. I remember sitting at the pub afterwards and just the three of us for about like an hour and a half just going in on this movie about our differing views.
Did that actually happen?
Yeah, it definitely did.
In the recollection of that.
Too much beer.
It was a dark period.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think we should run right into it. And I'll take the lead on this one.
Oh, here we go.
Look, I went back to this film. I didn't watch it with you two. I had to watch it at a different time. And I was a little bit kind of concerned because I thought, there's some of those films that you see at the time and you're really wrapped with, but when you go back, you're not as excited about. And people's opinions of movies change. So I was really worried that I was going to go back to this film and just not enjoy it, and then I'd have to go in this like talk to Ben and say, "You were right." Well, I've got to say, okay, well, Ben, I've got to say, I love this movie. Yeah, I really do.
You're specifically attacking Ben.
I expected as much. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I'm starting to gauge your taste pretty well.
Yeah. Now going back to it, I mean, it's still got the same issues that it had, when it was released. Unsurprisingly, but I feel kind of the same way about them. Overall, this movie is just. I mean, the highlight for this movie for me is just the way it looks. It is such a stunning looking film.
Agreed. Yeah.
For the last time in this conversation, agreed.
Yeah. I think that's probably something we can all agree on. Is just the look of this film is spectacular.
Except that one bit where it pans up to the skull? The skull on the top of the pyramid. And I'm like, holy crap, is this 2001? Like, what the hell's going on?
Very strange. What was the deal with that skull?
That was the only shot in that film.
There's one more.
It appeared twice.
Yeah.
The exact same shot appeared twice.
Really?
Yeah. Of that skull.
Well, that's all I got to say is the skull. That's my final thoughts on this one.
It's been our Prometheus review.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a really solid film.
Where are you sitting on this, Benny?
Look, coming back to it after all these years, I think I just saw it the once in the cinema, and then talked about it a lot since then. I was actually kind of interested to watch it again. I was really not keen once upon a time, but after sitting through AVP Requiem, I was like, yeah, why not? I can do anything now. And yeah, now I gotta say I just don't feel too strongly either way about it. I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. It's my least favorite Alien film, easily. If it is an Alien film, is it a prequel or isn't it? It's a fucking prequel, obviously. It looks great. I don't think anything else works.
For me, I've had a long-term relationship with Prometheus. I was unbelievably amped for this film when it was coming out.
More than anything except maybe the new Star Wars when that came out, I think.
Probably. And I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I was fascinated by the film on a number of levels. I've probably seen this film 10 times, I would say, and I've watched the behind the scenes on the Blu-ray probably more times because I love learning about the production of this film. So for me, this was the worst viewing I've had of it. I really was, I wasn't bored. I wasn't hating it. But really nothing that monumental happens in this film. There's a lot of setup. There's a lot of cool scenes and production design. But at the end of the day, it kind of just, they get to the engineer chamber and the engineer wakes up. That's kind of the end of the movie. Nothing really happens.
It's about it. It doesn't gel as a whole in any significant way, I don't think.
And one of the best scenes is the MedPod scene with the cesarean.
And I feel that feels most disconnected from the rest of the film more than anything else. Like it feels, I'm pretty sure it is a remnant from the original script, but it felt like they really had to fight to keep it in this.
But like, what happens with that in the rest of the film? Like, she's kind of grabs her stomach every so often.
That's why I said while we're watching it, it's the best and the worst scene, because it's the best scene because it's just the best scene, but it's the worst because it's so jammed in there.
I love some of those opening shots.
Oh, stunning.
Holy crap, man. That 2001 kind of horn that comes through with the planet Earth at the bottom. And, oh, jeez, man. He knows how to shoot space.
Yeah. And I mean, just even the music throughout the film, really. But particularly in that opening scene, I thought was really, really well done.
Yep.
Gelled really well with the visuals.
And then the engineer shows up.
So I've got to ask, what's your issue with the engineers?
I think one of the best and most endearing parts of the original Alien is the space jockey. When they first head to the ship and where they find all the alien eggs. It is such an amazing piece of cinema history. It's so mysterious. It's never addressed in the film what this character is, where he came from, what the ship is doing with all these eggs.
It adds its depth to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much there in so little somehow. And Prometheus, I feel, goes the opposite direction, where it takes something that was so interesting and gives it a very, very hazy kind of backstory. He's just some big albino guy. It tries to integrate it with all these new themes they're trying to run with in Prometheus that I don't think work at all. They seeded life on Earth. Cool. They ask a lot of questions about what it all means. We never get any answers whatsoever, any attempted answers.
I feel like this movie is very much a setup.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with no payoff.
Yeah.
That's a big problem for a movie.
That's what I think is one of the biggest problems. And I think when I say that it has no weight to it, like nothing really happens.
Yeah.
Nothing really gets answered.
So many questions.
What is the relationship between the xenomorphs, the engineers, and the humans? That is never really sort of fully explored and unpacked.
It's not explored at all. We never even see a xenomorph.
Except what is it called?
The deacon.
The deacon.
At the end, which is sort of, it's like a protomorph or something.
So is that going to be, now
Neomorph.
that's not going to be in Covenant, is it?
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, it's hard to kind of gauge what will lead into Covenant, because it does look like its own little standalone.
Covenant is very much a soft reboot.
I think so as well.
Yeah, but they had that kind of prologue release of
Yes, David and Shaw.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
David and Shaw.
Going to the engineer planet and all
yeah,
that.
exactly. So I'm not sure whether that will actually feature within Covenant.
It better not.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be in the actual film.
So weird seeing them all buddy. Like, what is this, like a couple days after David killed her husband or something?
It'll be interesting to see where that kind of fits into, because I think it will eventually come into that saga. So if not in Covenant, maybe is it Awakening that's next?
Maybe not Covenant. Maybe the fifth one after that one.
Well, I mean, legitimately, I think that's when we'll start to see that kind of original Prometheus come into play.
All will be revealed on the Prometheus's prequels sequel. We'll find out everything.
I think there's too much of a promise with this film, and that's a big problem. Like you're saying, maybe it'll tie in 6 films time or 1 film time, whatever. That argument is such a thin argument to stand on. And with Prometheus, it just doesn't seem to really be a necessary component to this Alien franchise. It seems like a superfluous little thing that sits on the side, and yeah, it looks nice and it's kind of cool, but at the end of the day, there's no consequences.
And as far as I'm concerned, it seems like this Prometheus franchise was aborted, essentially. Like, we're jumping back to Alien now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think this
But that was always the original plan with Ridley.
There's no way this was the way it was meant to go. This movie was received very mixed, and he absolutely would have made a Prometheus too, I think. That was the goal.
His whole idea was this wasn't an Alien film. He did try to do that like pre-marketing nonsense where it's like, it's not an Alien film, and then like you'd be surprised when an alien showed up, which no one was. But I felt very much as though this was its kind of the start to the prequel for Aliens. And having seen where Covenant looks as though it's going to go, and having rewatched Prometheus, I think that that's a good idea. Like, I like that kind of setup. And you talk about like it not having any weight or consequence. I think that they tried to tread a very thin line between having the kind of self-contained space horror type thing where they go to the planet, they get fucked up by this goo stuff, and like that's its own kind of story, and then this side plot which kind of wraps around to the ending, which is Wayland wanting to make contact with the engineers, and that kind of overarching plot on top of that.
Yeah,
I don't know that I'd say that they absolutely nailed the kind of merging or the having those concurrent plots happening within this film, but I certainly wouldn't say that they fucked it up. I think it's somewhere in that middle where it was a very ambitious thing to do.
I think, listen, there's definitely not a fuck up. It's just very, it doesn't have levity. So, for example, looking at the whole kind of film is promising we're going to find the answers. We're going to meet the engineers. And we're going to know about our existence and our evolution. In the end, he wakes up and he's like, fuck you, and rips off this robot's head, and it's like this for an hour or maybe 90 minutes of promising those kind of interesting answers. It doesn't ever come to fruition, and that's the film's biggest problem.
See, again, I don't find that as a problem, because very much a theme of this is talking to your creators and finding out that answer, and I don't...
And disappointment in that answer. No, seriously, which is the theme, and in a meta way, the movie really lives up to that.
Yeah.
By being a huge disappointment.
Like, we spent the whole kind of subplot of her kind of going with her faith, and, I do this because I choose to believe in that. That whole thing kind of comes to fruition in the fact that they don't get those answers, because that question so often is asked, and we just have to kind of live with, the answer or non-answer that we get. I think that could be an ultimate payoff. I think that, and this is why I say I think that this will be readdressed in 2 or 3 films' time, and kind of have this overarching answer to those questions. It'd be great,
just 3 movies, a whole trilogy, where the ending every time is just like big disappointment.
More questions. But I think that this as a self-contained film, that ending doesn't bother me. The fact that you don't get all the questions, like, it's the whole point. They go to this planet and they want to find answers, and they want to like have everything answered for them. And then they get there and it's just more questions. And that's kind of the whole journey.
Nothing about this movie is self-contained, though. It's also reliant on the existing franchise. I was angry about this movie when it first came out. That anger's mostly dissipated. But I remember it was because it was an Alien prequel that wasn't an Alien prequel. Like, it works so hard to set up the original movie, but it's set on a different planet. So it doesn't even set up the original movie. So it's just this weird, pointless extra limb in a franchise that didn't need it.
But again, that's what it was marketed as. That's like from the very get-go, Ridley Scott was like, this is not a prequel to Alien.
Yeah, but then they go to the planet with this ship and all the alien DNA shit, and they set it up exactly like it could be an Alien prequel. But
it lives within that universe, and it's consistent with that universe, which makes sense to me. Like, a lot of people were really disappointed. It was like, oh, the engineer gets in and becomes like the space jockey, but it can't be the space jockey. And I'm like, well, at no point was this promised to be like, if these are the ships that they use and this is what it looks like when they take off, then of course it's going to look like the space jockey.
That's what's so bullshit about it, is that it's moving pieces in such a contrived way to set up the original movie, but it doesn't. Like, it's like, here's the space jockey, here's the ship, here's the alien shit, here's it crashes here, there's distress signals and such. Like, it's just all these little things from the original Alien, but it's not an actual prequel to that.
I remember seeing the film and being disappointed that it didn't literally like perfectly dovetail into Alien. And I actually thought, I was expecting them to go to LV-426 and it ends up being LV-223 or whatever it is in this. I can't quite remember. But I was that was an expectation for me going into this. And now knowing that, I look at the film from a different way. Oh, this doesn't dovetail into Alien. Okay, let's take it on its own merits. Okay.
Because then you're saying, like, what's the point of doing all this if it's not going to connect to the original?
What is the...
Actually make it a standalone.
What's the crux of Prometheus? Like, what is it about?
Oh, are you actually asking the question?
Well, I'm trying to figure that out.
Well,
I'm
no,
trying to get out there.
In the spirit
really,
of Prometheus, let's not answer that question.
I mean, it's really about figuring out, or giving clues and to the origin of where we came from. Like for me, that's essentially what they started out with. They wanted to figure out where they came from, and they wanted those answers, and they wanted to go on that journey, and that's essentially what they did. And they didn't like what they found. And you talk about, you actually get to talk to the engineer, and then the engineer just fucks him up. For me, that made total sense. Like he was on his way to go destroy Earth, and he comes up and he meets these Earthlings, right? And all they care about is not really asking those questions of where are we from. It's how do I save my own skin? And I can imagine that engineer looking at it being like, you're exactly the kind of petty shitheads that we want to erase from this universe. Like you are just kind of solidifying my thought that you don't deserve to be alive, and decides to fuck him up.
I like
none
that
of
reading.
that is in the movie.
I like that.
Yes, it
I really
is.
like that reading.
Yeah.
But I wish it had been directed in a way that reinforced that notion, because I don't think it is capitalized on, and I like that reading of it, and I like the concept of meeting your maker, and we don't know the answers. We don't get all the answers. I like that concept, but I think in Prometheus, it sets itself up so much in a manner to answer the questions that by the end, you get to the end and we find out Alien Covenant's coming out. Alien Covenant just smells to me like we fucked up Prometheus. Let's slap Alien on it. Round 2. Here we go.
Yeah, I totally disagree. I think that from my understanding was that this was always going to be the plan. Like, I don't think that a Prometheus 2, I don't know that they really set it up for a Prometheus 2. Like, I don't know how a straightforward sequel to that movie would have gone down. Like, going to the planet and talking to the engineers, I don't think that that's a situation in which you can make a good film out of. I think if that ties into an overall story...
Hang on. Going to the planet and talking to engineers, that's Prometheus. So you don't think you can make a good movie out of that?
No, going...
No, that's what he said.
No, because that's not what happened.
That is. They go to the planet to find the engineers.
They go... No, that's their goal, but that's not what the movie actually is.
That's all
so
the
I think
movie
if that
is.
movie was actually... They showed up on a planet filled with engineers, I don't think that would have been as good as them going to a planet and not getting the answers that they looked for. Like, if that engineer had sat down and explained all the things to them, I think that would have been far more boring and anticlimactic than what you actually got. I think this is the whole point. Think about when that speech that David gave to her husband or her boyfriend about, can you imagine, why I was created? Oh, well, we could. Think about how disappointing it would be to hear your creator say that. Like, I don't think you're going to get the satisfaction either way. So I think that's kind of half the beauty of this film.
Yeah.
Let's get into some of the specifics. The many things that don't work in this movie.
We were supposed to go back to the beginning.
Yeah, it didn't really work.
Opening engineer, I think when the engineer he sort of degrades.
Yeah.
I love that scene, and the DNA reforming, the actual texture of the VFX done on that double helix piece of DNA.
Yeah.
I have always loved that. It's got this really interesting look.
That's how it's done, X-Men. They're always doing those little DNAs and things.
Love that scene. Yeah, so that's
it's all downhill from there.
I've already said that opening scene for me was really spectacular. I thought that, I'll openly say that I thought in the first 20 minutes there was a little bit too much exposition that they were trying to get through. That hangar scene.
Can we just say how bad Wayland looks?
That makes
my
God.
God.
The only reason that I can think that they had him as
Guy Pearce.
It's a deleted scene.
But yeah, Guy Pearce is because of that pre-marketing scene where he starts talking about, as he is as Wayland, and then they just slap some fucking makeup on him. Like, that is so weird.
I don't think that's a good enough reason to cast that age actor.
No, not even. I would rather them de-age an old guy for that marketing thing.
Exactly.
And then have someone who's actually old play that character.
That would look real bad 5 years ago.
I'd cop it because it's just some marketing bullshit. Like, I don't care about that.
Yeah, it's just Wayland as a whole, I think, is ridiculous. It's so bad. Why is it a twist that he's on the ship? It's so like in the opening, he's like, if you're watching this, I'm dead.
Yeah.
He tells him that, then he just shows up as like, no, I'm not. It's like, what the fuck was that about? It was
Yeah.
meaningless.
Father.
And then they double down on it with an extra twist with Charlize Theron, which is like, father. Like, what? That doesn't mean anything either.
Wayland
and it's
in
played to
general
be so dramatic.
is the most unnecessary part of this film.
I love when he gets just fucking smashed.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Giant welt on his head.
His final conversation with David was great.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I'm going or something. Well,
There's
you know,
nothing.
there's nothing. And he'd be like, well, have a safe journey.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was
But
cool.
apart from that character did not need to be in there.
Yeah, Lance Henriksen
So
in
much
AVP
better, yeah.
over this version.
I think they could have achieved the same plot points without him. Like, he's just not necessary to this film
Yeah.
at all.
But so much of this movie is not necessary.
Yeah.
Like,
Why not just have
nothing-
him frozen back on Earth and then they're coming to get the cure and then go back? Like, that just, to me, that would eliminate so much unnecessary nonsense from this film.
Yeah, it just seemed like that wasn't ironed out properly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so from there they go from the hangar scene and they're all really pissed off with each other the whole time.
Oh my god, there's
no camaraderie in this
it's a
movie.
very hostile environment,
Yeah.
hostile work
Yeah.
environment.
The two dudes who get fucked up in the cave.
Fuck man, the guy with the mohawky thing,
Yeah.
Sean Harris's
Yeah,
character,
yeah.
he is insane. Like
Yeah.
that scene where he's just like screaming at her.
He's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here, you
Yeah.
crazy motherfuckers. And
Like
it's like they've been there for 5 minutes.
yeah.
It's like,
But he's probably at that
I didn't
point-
want to see a dead body.
Yeah,
It's like, what?
at that point, he's probably the only sane one there. He's like, fuck this. No, thank you.
Nothing had happened yet. Then when he's in the room with the snake monster, he's fine. He's not wigging out much then.
yeah, and is it Rafe Spall? Rafe Spall?
Ref Spall, yeah.
Rafe Spall, he's just like, don't talk to me. I'm on this ship. I'm not here to make friends. it's and also Charlize Theron with
Oh my god.
Idris Elba.
we'll talk about that scene in a minute. But Charlize
I did like that scene, though.
Charlize Theron and Shaw, she's just like, we're paying for this.
She's like cartoonishly evil.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I can't even think of two characters that really have any camaraderie. Maybe Holloway and Shaw, but he gets fucked up so early on.
This was actually the only. I was fine with the interactions with the characters. Like, you know, they
wouldn't
didn't
they
have
been,
to be
like-
friendly.
Wouldn't they have been celebrating like we're gonna find the meaning of life? Being like, holy crap!
I liked
we
how
are.
half of them
And-
were like, we don't give a shit about
And
this.
look at them.
Like,
Look
just
at the
pay
marketing
us.
for Covenant. They're like a family. You know?
Yeah.
They've really
But that's
course
a different
corrected.
film. So I mean, like, I'm okay with the way that the characters interacted. The one part that didn't gel with me was Sean Holloway. I thought that wasn't
it was
overly.
off.
I didn't like Holloway as a character.
Yeah, it was off.
He's my least favorite character in that entire thing. I was fine with Charlize Theron's character being, Vickers or whatever her name was, being cold.
Yeah, I liked her in this.
I think she plays cold really well.
Holloway, the boyfriend, is he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mimi's boyfriend. Yeah,
He
weird.
was an asshole from pretty much.
yeah,
get-go.
such a dick.
like
Like,
he just pulls off his helmet.
See, I don't mind a character beat of one character pulling off their helmet, but then when everyone else does it straight away,
Yeah.
and literally when there's a line a little earlier that said you can survive out there without a suit for 2 minutes, maybe wait 2 minutes to see how he
Just
is
see how
then
this
then
goes.
take off your
Yeah.
helmet. But yeah, he was really aggressive to David, which is very strange. Like I could get that kind of like android hating character, but they just didn't see it in any way. Like there's just nothing to it.
His, as far as character goes, I found, and apart from Wayland, I think his was the least strong of that entire.
He's just very bland.
Well,
but then
he's an asshole, and I didn't understand why he needed to be. Like, I
Yeah.
felt like everything would have been more meaningful if he wasn't.
He goes out in a blaze of glory though, which I really don't. It's like he's infected with something. He seems to get that he's sick and maybe in pain, but then he's like, "Hey, set me on fire." What the hell?
I like that scene. Just
I'm
on its
not
face
into it.
value.
I
I'm
liked the
shoot
reaction.
him in the head.
Yeah, I liked the reaction of Vickers.
Yeah, Vickers is just like, this motherfucker ain't coming on.
yeah, absolutely.
And then I
Yeah,
love how she there's a moment of regret, or of kind of, she's horrified by what
Yeah,
she's had to
yeah,
have done.
yeah.
And I liked it. I thought that kind of built
Yeah.
that character.
there's laser guns everywhere in
Yeah.
that hangar. She didn't need to fucking immolate him.
All right, so then let's talk about the first encounter in the cave, because that was just really strange. I never ever liked the giant holograms,
No.
and like David going to the rock formations, just raking through them, pressing all the right buttons, and then the holograms of the space jockeys. Just
of the engineers running.
yeah, it was really weird. And I never got that scene. I never liked the visuals.
I thought it was cool. I mean, it was a little bit different.
That's just
It was-
that's obviously it's just my preference, but
Yeah.
I never connected. I never connected with that scene.
Then you get another scene out of nowhere that does nothing, that means nothing, is when they're animating the the head, the decapitated head,
Yeah.
and then it explodes, and it's like, what is happening in this scene?
Intense. Like,
No,
I
it's
remember
like
when I first
we've
saw
just
it.
discovered the first evidence of life in the universe. Just plug a fucking electric prod into it and blow it up.
Well, the intention wasn't to blow it up.
No, but what are they doing? Did they even take a photo of it before they did that? Jesus Christ.
What would you like to see the entire scientific process when they get the head? Be like, this is just not regulation.
I just didn't need a scene that had no purpose to it like that. That was very strange.
It was just more of a creature effects scene rather than actually.
It was the face
revealing.
hug. It was the face hugger autopsy from Alien, but less interesting and without that cool acid bit.
Yeah, so then another complaint I have about this film is a lot of the action, like there's kind of this cycle that happens where they go into the cave and they come back and they have an action scene on that cargo platform with the vehicles. So you have the first time they go in and they come back and there's the big
metal
sandstorm, and then Holloway and Vickers, and then you also have old mate Sean Harris, Mohawk dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All in that area, like all the action sequences happen in there, and that's part of the reason why I don't think Ridley changed up the environments enough to keep the audience engaged.
Okay.
At least for me.
Yeah.
I just thought that middle chunk of the film is them cave, platform, cave, platform, cave, platform.
But I feel like, I mean, if you actually think about the original Alien, it was very much contained. It was like one set, essentially.
But I think
That's the
Alien
point,
was
though.
was truckers in space.
Yeah.
And this one is what is the meaning of life and who
a
are
little
our
bit
creators?
more, yeah.
Cerebral and
See, I liked all the cave exploration stuff. I thought that what this film did really well was kind of along as you kind of progress through the story, it reveals what happened. I thought they did that in a really cool way. Just as far as just showing like piles of bodies, like obviously people trying to run away, and like you can just kind of piece together how this all fucked up.
an outbreak of the goo.
There wasn't much there.
The goo, like what did the goo do?
Backstory. Oh my god, what does the goo do? It does story stuff and is inconsistent. That's what it does. It turns little worms into big worms. It turns Fifield into a zombie for some reason. And then there's a big space octopus that creates a xenomorph. It's insane.
Yeah. I feel like it didn't have to be overly specific. I didn't rewatching it. I remember the first time being a little bit confused about exactly what happened to which person, like how this interacts with humans and how it interacts with engineers and all that. And being a little bit confused. Upon rewatching it, it doesn't actually kind of break any laws that it's set. Like it seems
It doesn't
consistent.
set any.
There are no laws.
Well, I mean, but like everything kind of seems consistent with how this progresses. So if you talk about that little weird octopus monster, it's not because she's been directly contaminated by it. She's been contaminated through Holloway. If you think about what happened to, the Mohawk guy
Versus Holloway. Okay, so one dude ingests it via a little drop that he drinks. That's Holloway's character.
Yeah. The other one
And the other
gets
gets-
acid burnt onto his
yeah.
face and then like goes into a
He gets
a
face
pool of
first
it.
He
into
becomes
it,
a
yeah.
raging zombie.
Yeah, well, which
So
we
what
can
would have
assume
happened
would
to
have
Holloway?
happened to Holloway. Something like that would have happened
Okay.
to Holloway.
But in
presumably.
the original version of that Fifield scene was him turning into a xenomorph, and it's a completed scene, or essentially something xenomorph-like, which I think
it's more like creature-esque.
but which I think is a much more interesting way for the goo to go and more consistent. It makes more sense that that's what this stuff is for.
Yeah.
In a way, not just a stupid looking
I kind of
zombie.
like the idea that the whole creation of the xenomorph was like an accident type thing. Like it's not technically
But I
what
don't
this
think it
made
is.
for.
I don't think it is going to be. I
But
think
actually, now that I mention it, there's obviously the xenomorph is already in play because they have that Muriel behind
yeah.
the big statue.
Yeah.
Muriel.
Muriel.
Mural.
Muriel.
Yeah,
I love
I
Muriel.
don't know how to speak.
I think the goo it kind of explains Prometheus very effectively. It looks cool. It's interesting, but does it actually figure out what it means within the story?
Stuff happens.
It doesn't. And
Yeah.
that's kind of Prometheus in a lot of ways for me. I think the next kind of point of call to unpack is the flute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, man. What the hell? What the hell were they thinking? No, I'm sorry. They're pressing squishy eggs and flutes. And I mean, come on, Ridley, man.
Right,
come on. I realize there's different interfaces out there and aliens have different things. So squishy milk chocolate Kinder Surprise egg things. No.
All right, this is where I'm going to call bullshit. So often we're like, oh, we want something original in film. We want different things in sci-fi, bring out kind of unique ideas. And then as soon as something like this happens, like something that's just not stock standard, a lever or a fucking button, people are like, oh, that's fucking bullshit. No, fuck off. Like that's such a legitimate kind of new way of approaching technology. And as soon as it happens, people like flip their lids. It's fucking insane.
So you really like that he's using a flute?
No, stupid. But having said that, I was like, I'm going to enjoy the shit out of this because I'm not going to be a hypocrite.
On principle.
Actually, to be honest, the flute thing, I kind of went through on principle, saying, look, it's something new, and the more I thought about it in that way, the less.
And out of all the stupid shit in this movie, that is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. It's certainly not bad enough for me to be like, oh, it's ruined my experience.
What about the fucking climax of the film? The ultimate climax, running from a big rolling disc.
Yeah, let's talk about the croissant.
And then she fucking rolls 2 feet to the side.
She literally does one roll, and she's sweet.
Then Charlize falls down, gets crushed, and it stops on her.
Yeah.
It just stops rolling.
It is
like, you cannot get any dramatic tension from that. It's hilarious. Like on the most fundamental level of just a moving image.
Yeah.
It is hilarious.
And the way he cuts the scene, it's so inconsistent with how far away they are from the ship.
Yeah.
It just stretches that distance to a laughable level.
Absurd level. Yeah, that, to be honest, as far as an action scene go, that's the weakest point of the film for me.
Just before that happens, though, a cool scene is where Idris and the Prometheus ship hit the Covenant. The actual impact was a really cool slow-mo moment.
Cool. Like, it just looks
that's a cool moment. That's a very cool moment.
I liked Idris Elba in this. I'll be honest. I didn't like his accent.
Yeah, we were talking about. And he's got his little like
the ukulele thing.
No, it's not a ukulele.
Oh, no, not ukulele. Sorry. What is it called?
What is that called? Accordion. Ukulele.
That's a ukulele, right? Maybe I got a different version. His conversation with Vickers was great.
That was good. That was like the one scene in the movie that had some character.
Yeah. There was actually smiles.
I liked his dialogue in that. I liked that interaction. I just wish it had been in his own accent, to be honest.
Yeah.
He could have just
should have just been British.
That really threw me when he
oh my God.
I wasn't even sure, like, it wasn't very consistent either. Like,
no,
it was a very poorly done accent.
It was like, and Ridley, do you think I should go for the kind of southern accent on this one?
I wonder whose decision that was. Like, I want to really kind of like show
should we do Alabama or Kansas for this scene?
Yeah, that was, and I mean, hats off to Ridley or to Idris Elba for still pulling off that character, despite the fact that it has a shit accent.
That character who, like, okay, let's talk about that scene where he just walks in that kitchen scene and goes, "All right." It's some kind of weapon. I'm going to tell you everything.
God.
He goes to the shore and he just unpacks the whole story. And he's like, they come from another planet. This isn't their home. They must have been storing the weapons here.
This is a military outpost. They're going to kill Earth. The entire plot of the film is condensed into 30 seconds of exposition delivered by the one character who should have no idea what's happening on this planet.
He's the pilot.
I felt like I got most of that anyways. And it was just kind of this moment where I imagined someone being like, looking at this movie and going, you know what? There's some people that just aren't going to get this. We're going to have it spelt out by someone.
Oh my God.
Idris, you're up.
It's like Idris, okay, listen, we've got one day left on set, so we're just going to...
We forgot to put a plot in this movie. We're going to need you to get it in there.
That
yes,
scene,
sir.
I was laughing out loud when that was going down.
Why did we spend 4 weeks on the scene where I seduced Charlize Theron?
This film for me... The exposition scenes I don't like, because I think this film does a good job of showing and not telling. Like, at no point did I think that this was their home planet or anything like that. It did feel like an outpost, and I don't know whether that's just because
I don't know.
No, it makes complete sense. Like, it doesn't feel like
it all makes sense.
Oh my God, I love your conviction.
It does. I mean, at no point
you inspire me.
Yeah,
it's just so hindsight, man. There's no way you're watching this movie going, this feels like a military outpost.
Certainly not in that sense, but you do get the sense that this isn't their home world. You don't get the sense that this is, or at least in this kind of contained area. And you do get the idea that these are weapons and that they're, something's gone wrong here. As far as like his explanation, it wasn't smooth, but it certainly wasn't the worst.
I just love it. I just think it's so dumb.
It's crazy, man. This movie takes itself so seriously, and I swear to God, there are more laugh out loud moments in it than in AVP, which blows my mind.
There isn't, not even close.
Absolutely, I think so.
I mean, there's moments of exposition that aren't good. That was probably the only moment that I can think of.
I kind of love that bit. How dumb it is.
The rolling croissant is the laugh out loud moment for me.
The snake monster.
That scene wasn't terrible.
The snake monster. Come here, boy. Come here.
She's beautiful.
And then it royally fucks him up. I love that scene.
Yeah, that was well done. But like a couple minutes ago, he's like, I'm scared. I don't want to be in here. Let's get out of here. Then he sees a literal monster, and he's like, give me a hug.
Yeah, there's no way that that's worse than AVP though. In terms of like laugh out loud.
In terms of managing tone intentionally, it's absolutely worse because AVP is a fun B movie.
Yeah,
you're meant to laugh at that movie. This one, you are meant to be stone faced the entire time. Like, yes, this is deep.
But I didn't
thoughtful.
Find myself like laughing at this film.
I laughed uncontrollably at the rolling thing at the end, and definitely that Idris Elba scene.
I kind of just hid my head for that one. I was like, oh, if I don't see it didn't happen.
Oh, I just got a text.
Yeah, that's weird. Oh, and we're back. Look, she survived.
And then I guess it's the final engineer battle, which I can't even remember. I think
the engineer battle.
Yeah, with Shaw at the end, when she returns back to that
all
ship.
She does is she opens up that door and the fucking... And again, I thought that was cool. Like when the engineer is like trying to struggle against that big tentacle monster. Man. I thought that was sick.
It looks amazing.
It looks sick. And when it finally gets it and it kind of does that shivering thing, I thought it was such a cool little moment. I didn't need it to be a big battle. In fact, I like when those kind of things happen quickly as opposed to this long drawn... I can just imagine him like chasing her around the ship. And that's not necessary. Like that for me would have been dragging it out a little bit too much.
Nothing really happens of tension in that final sequence, in my opinion. And I think that's the first time where it's like one-on-one. Okay, it's like kind of like Ripley versus the Xenomorph in Alien. That one-on-one battle that I was excited for.
Yeah,
and I think that was a missed opportunity.
I don't think this film really set up for that kind of battle. This film for me was really just kind of discovery and building and opening up kind of a grander mythos for this franchise.
Half building.
Sorry?
Half building. Hey, that's
but I think
good
like
enough.
In that sense that there is something to be said for good setup, and I think this film does that. And I think people that are saying that as a standalone it doesn't really work, I've already made my thoughts about that pretty clear. But I think that it doesn't need to answer all your questions for it to be a good film. Like it just doesn't need to.
I will agree with that. But it's got to come from the right place. I think something like 2001 leaves things very open-ended and it doesn't answer things. But that's part of the DNA of the film. Part of the DNA of this film was to answer the questions. And when you didn't, I think there was a level of dissatisfaction that came from that.
So what questions would have you liked answered in this film?
Man, I just think a little bit more context for, maybe like how... the engineers created humans, or just actually confirming that was the case.
But they've already said like that we're the DNA matches.
Yeah, I know.
I think any more specifics after that would just become
arduous. It's like so much setup without the payoff, but not in like an intentional way. Like they pull the rug out from under you. It feels like it's setting up a trilogy or some bullshit, and it just nothing ever gets addressed.
It'll be interesting to see once the Alien franchise brings it back up to the space jockey. Once that kind of, because that's Ridley has said that's really where he wants to end up. He wants it to end up where exactly what's happening with that space jockey in Alien.
Fuck,
he wants that to just kind of touch.
He went and got a burrito that morning, and it was a good day. It was a good day.
What? Sorry, what?
For that space jockey. I don't want to know what happened with that space jockey, man. I don't care.
See, so it is so Ridley Scott. He so believes his own hype that he's like, I'm going to take a 2-second scene from one of my great masterpieces and make a franchise out of it.
Ridley doesn't acknowledge any other films in the Alien franchise. So he doesn't acknowledge Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, none of the AVPs. It's literally Alien and Prometheus. And he's like on set and he's like, oh, this is the first time we're ever going to see a face hugger running in an Alien film. And it's like, dude, James Cameron did that in the laboratory in Aliens.
Nutcase.
You fucking crazy old man.
They made more Alien movies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a terrible way to think, but if that's the little universe that he wanted to work in, like that little antidote is batshit insane.
Yeah.
Like that's just maybe that's just memory problems. Maybe he just doesn't remember that those other ones are out there.
Yeah.
Thinks it's 1982.
Yeah.
But in terms of, you were saying that, oh, no one wants that. I want that. I think that would be a cool little connecting point. I love, and we said this with AVP as well, I love the greater world building.
Yeah.
So I would really love to see how everything kind of fits into that Alien universe, like everything that comes before.
You're one of those guys who you saw The Hobbit, and when at the end when it's like Legolas is like, I'm gonna go find Stryker, you're like, yeah.
No, I absolutely fucking hated that.
Prequels, man, it's horrible.
No, I think prequels can work. I'm trying to think of an example where they did.
The Phantom's Menace.
Oh, God,
The Thing, 2011.
No, not even just prequel. I like.
There must be one prequel we
larger-
can think of, guys.
Yeah, I am trying to think. I like, like expanding a universe and delving into what happened before a story. Like I like that setup. Most of the things that I can think of are things like in books and kind of general stories. But
We don't care about your book reading in here, pal.
This is
This isn't
movies.
a book reading podcast. But in terms of, because I think what Hobbit did was they tried to blend it too much. Like they fucked that up so much, especially with that Stryker scene. Because Stryker would have been like 12 at the time. It was like, go find this Stryker, and be like, no.
Strider.
Well, you said Stryker, so
I
you
don't know what you're
fucked me
talking
up. Yeah, when he does that
Yeah,
scene,
yeah.
it doesn't make sense.
But I think Prometheus, it falls into the prequel category of it's unnecessary, and that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I feel like
love,
you've changed your tone so much. This is weird, George, because I mean, we would always agree that we enjoyed this film. It was a good film.
I really did.
I feel betrayed by you.
My secret weapon.
To be honest, the best thing about Prometheus is that that Blu-ray special feature on the making of Prometheus. It is so fascinating. You really get to know more about the production design team, what they were going for, actually building the sets. It also focuses a lot on John Spates, the original screenwriter, and then Damon Lindelof, the guy from Lost, J.J. Abrams' mate, coming in and doing a rewrite, and it seems to be that the engineers became a much bigger part of it, and the film initially played out a lot similar to an Alien film with chest bursters, with xenomorphs, and I think it's almost like, fuck, that's what we should have done in the first place, and that's what Covenant is.
Yeah, get rid of all that half-hearted spiritualism.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, clearly I disagree with that. I think that at first I was totally on board with that. I was like, oh, don't do a fucking standalone little not Alien thing. But I'm glad that they didn't have that kind of chest burster scene. Like they had the one at the end, which was a little tag on, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that this wasn't an Alien film. I'm glad that they set up something in the universe that wasn't pretty much what Alien and Aliens was.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we all enjoyed about AVP, was that it was looking at something a little bit more expansive, trying to show the universe with something that's not just an alien, new flavor. I think that that's what this film certainly tried to do, and I think to a certain extent pulled it off.
Yeah.
I hope that Covenant doesn't fall into the same traps as this one did.
Yep.
If I have to hear one more bit of exposition, I might cry. But yeah, in terms of what this film set out to do, in that it was not an alien film, in that it explored that kind of Promethean legend and it explored that kind of unanswered questions and then just set everything up, I think that it pulled off what it needed to be.
I feel like if this is not an Alien film, then it's just a nothing film. As I said before, when it first came out, I was very angry about how it tried to be a prequel, but sort of not really, didn't. I was just kind of upset about the ways it's shadowed all of the franchise that I love. But now I'm over the anger, and it's just kind of, just watching it again, it was just a bit meh.
Yeah, for me, this is as I said, this is my worst viewing of it. And it's not a bad film. It's not a boring film. It's not. It doesn't sort of fumble along. It's very swift. It looks nice. It's well put together. But at the end of the day, the concepts and whatnot really don't follow through. And I think knowing that Alien Covenant's coming out is making me watch the film in a different way, and maybe not appreciating its merits as much as I have in the past, because of the prospects of getting answers with Alien Covenant really excites me. So maybe that'll be what I wanted in the first place.
Do you think you'll get answers in Covenant? Or do you just need more questions?
Well, to be honest,
Lindelof is nowhere to be seen. So.
The first reviews that came out this weekend said engineers don't. There's not a lot of information revealed on the engineers.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be xenomorph focused. And man, if it's just like a little more visceral horror, like, because I don't think the horror element was quite up to scratch in Prometheus compared to maybe some other body horror elements in the other Alien entries into the Alien franchise. If they can nail that, I think I might like it more.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Is everyone okay? Is everyone all right?
Yeah, I think we're good on that.
Yeah, I got nothing more to say about Prometheus. I'm done with it. Don't want to see it again. Don't want to talk about it anymore. It's in the past. It is, as I said before, it's at the bottom of the Alien franchise.
For someone that doesn't like talking about it, you do mention it quite a bit.
Because it betrayed me. It's a big point in my film history.
There's a lot to unpack with that film, and I think as a case study for sequels and franchises and adding new elements to those, it's an interesting piece to examine.
Yeah. Oh, I found like a semi prequel that was good.
Yeah.
Insidious.
It's
essentially Insidious 2 is essentially a prequel.
No.
Or Insidious 3.
Insidious 2, it has elements that tie in before and after.
And then Insidious 3 is a straight up
prequel, which isn't that great. Oh, well.
That is it.
Yeah. Is that it, guys? Any other prequels to throw in there? Come on.
I'll think of some
line them up.
There aren't any. There's none.
Well, that's it for our Prometheus in-depth discussion and review. That was fun, guys. I think we're all very excited and highly anticipating Alien Covenant. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Connor.
Toodaloo.
Oh, man. Benny.
See ya.
Thanks, guys. Peace out.
Don't fuck up, Ridley.